Well, again, good morning. Good to see you here this morning. If you have your Bibles there, you might want to open them up to Colossians chapter 3, 1 to 14. That's the text I'm looking at this morning. It's also pre-populated in our church app if you happen to have that on your phone. So please do that. There were a suspicious number of elders winning prizes today. And a suspicious lack of senior pastors winning prizes today. Not sure what to make of that. Okay, anyway, good fun. Enjoy your prizes, people. Okay, so Colossians. This morning I'm talking about what all the best people are wearing. Bear with me, that will make sense very shortly. Now, I'm going to start by reading out the passage that I'm going to talk about, because it's good to read the Bible in church, isn't it? It's good to read it out loud. Okay, so Colossians chapter 3, verse 1 to 14. Since then, you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived. But now you must also rid yourselves of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge in the image of its creator. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Amen. Anyone like their clothing brands? Anyone have a favourite brand? Anyone want to share their favourite label? Yeah, Nat? French Connection, good choice. I'm a fan of French Connection too. All the best people are fans of French Connection. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything from the Restore, yeah. That's it, Lyndall knows how to do it. Okay, anything from the Restore. Yes, mate. Tommy Hilfiger. Okay, anything else? Kmart, there we go. Kmart, what's that? Aldi Specials. Aldi Specials, yeah? Did someone else yell something out? Yeah, go on. Valley Girl. Yes, I like Valley Girl myself. Yeah. Bunnings. Well, you can get a hat and a t-shirt and everything. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I was like 19 before I realised there was such a thing called fashion. I'll tell you that story soon, actually. But you know, someone who didn't know about that stuff, and when Heather and I first were, met and were going out and married, we lived in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And back in the day when there were newspapers, remember Barry mentioned newspapers last week? In the Sydney Morning Herald on a Saturday, there was even a section devoted to what people were wearing, and they used to go and take these kind of candid shots of people in the street who would then identify the variety of labels they were wearing. And this was like eye-opening to me, because I was like, what, people care about this type of stuff? I had no idea about it. You know, the global fashion industry this year stands to rake in $1.7 trillion. $1.7 trillion. Looking good is big business, yes? And don't even get me started on the cosmetic industry or the cosmetic surgery industry. That thing rakes in billions of dollars, well, just in Australia alone. The other day, a couple of weeks ago actually, I found a piece of paper on the floor near my daughter's room. So I picked it up to see if it was anything important, and it was a quote for a haircut. You get quotes to get your car fixed, stuff done around the house. This was a quote from a hairdresser. You know how much she was quoted to get done what she wanted to get done? $1,200. Now, she didn't do it. That's why she went and got a quote. $1,200. And I said to her, honey, I don't spend $1,200 on this. You can look good without spending that type of money. I lash out occasionally and go to the barber. They say, what do you want, sir? And I go, number 1 all over. They look really disappointed. I said, what else am I going to do? I'm balding. And if you've noticed this morning, Dylan has joined the club. And it looks good. It looks good. Anyway, us people, we'll spend a fortune on ourselves to look good, Some more than others, but we'll spend a fortune on ourselves to look good. Now, I'm not saying that's bad or it's wrong. If you want to look nice and you want to spend money on yourself and do that, that's fine, each to their own. And I'm certainly not going to be a hypocrite about it. I've got my own. Look, I'm wearing my Doc Martens today. Anyone Doc Martens? Come on. They cost a fortune. But I don't buy them for myself. Every brand that I have was bought for me by either my wife or my children, because I just don't go and do that sort of thing. But I've also got my Dolce & Gabbana and my Gookie from Parkley Markets as well. So, I'm decked out. So look, I'm not having a go, but here's the thing. We spend up big and go to all sorts of trouble to look nice on the outside, right? But how much attention and value do we give to what's on the inside? What if we gave our character as much attention as we did our appearance? And what if we placed as much value on being nice as we do looking nice? What if those were the things we esteemed and the world esteemed? The place would be a different place altogether. One of the things I've often struggled with, and think that I don't think we do this terribly well in churches, and I'm certainly putting my hand up as being part of the problem there, is when we tell people about what it means to be a Christian, or we disciple people, if you like, is the terminology we usually use, we focus so much, almost exclusively, on the head. And we teach people what they need to believe in order to be a Christian, and we pass that off as discipleship. So when we disciple people, it's all about getting their biblical knowledge and beliefs lined up, and that's fine, that's important. It's good that people understand their beliefs and they're familiar with the Bible and its teachings and all of that. But we tend to focus on these areas almost exclusively. I mean, when I first became a Christian, I was given a 6-week booklet, fill in the gaps thing, and I was considered discipled after that. I could tick that box, I was actually done. But discipleship is not just what's about in our head, it's not even what's about in our hearts, it's also about what's in our community. What is the character of our individual and corporate life? And we don't tend to teach people how to live or place an emphasis on the importance about how we live, except for a few big ticket items, which I'll get to in a minute. We don't tend to socialise people how to do life together in community and to do it well, to teach people these are the type of people we're meant to be, and this is how we are to conduct ourselves with one another in the community of the church. What if we put the same weight on being good relationally as much as we do being right doctrinally? That would make a big difference. To focus on our behaviours as well as our beliefs. Over the years, more than a few people have said to me, Adrian, being a Christian is not just about being a nice guy. And I thought, yeah, but it would be a good start, wouldn't it? And I agree, right? Christianity is more than just being a nice person. But it's not less than that, is it? And why I say that is because I think sometimes we feel like if we're right, it doesn't matter whether we're nice about it or not. And people are not lost to us or for what we're about because it's all about what we believe and they don't necessarily line up. Sometimes they're just put off by the way we approach things. They're put off by our behaviour, by our conduct, by the way that we do this sort of stuff. That's why I love this stuff that Paul is talking about here in this passage, because he's taking these really big, profound theological truths about us being in Christ and our lives being hidden in him. And we need to get these beliefs in our head, but he's also grounding them in some really practical behaviours, because these truths have practical implications. And so he offers simple instructions about how to behave to one another in light of these truths. Since this is true, then this is how you need to live. You've had this experience. You used to be like this, but now you are like this. So this is how you are supposed to live. And he starts in verse 1 telling us that since we've been raised with Jesus and we are seated with him in heavenly places, right, we are to set our minds on things that are above and not set our minds down here on earthly things. Don't get caught up in things down here, in stuff that is actually destructive. And he actually picks on two categories of let's say, sin, behaviour, whatever you want to call it, in this in particular. One is sexual immorality and the other is destructive speech. And both of these things do damage, right? They do damage to the person who does it, they do damage to the people immediately affected by it, and they do damage to the wider community. Now, the church has been pretty focused and clear on the first issue, right, on the sexual immorality issue. And if you were here for my series that I did on sex, money, power, you would have heard me spell out clearly what the Bible means by sexual immorality. And it's pretty clear. It's very simple. It simply means sex outside the context of the marriage relationship. However you want to define a marriage relationship, it's outside of the context of that marriage relationship. And if you don't like that, don't take it up with me, take it up with the management, right? I didn't write the book, I'm just telling you what it means and what it says. So that's what it says. Okay, sex outside of marriage relationship. Now, the church has been pretty good at hammering this one. If you mess up in this area, the sex area, you're going to know about it. If you're a pastor, you're going to lose your job. If you're a leader, you're going to lose your position. If you're in some sort of ministry, you're going to be stood down. There will be a price to pay. There will be some sort of discipline taken out against you if you mess up in this area. And I have heard and seen a number of horrific ways this has been dealt with people. People have been brought up onto the stage in front of churches where their sins have been read out and they've had to experience the shame of all that, you know. Just as an aside, that's not helpful, right? That's not how you help bring restoration to someone when someone messes up. You don't publicly shame them. You go and deal with it. So I've seen that. But you step out of line in this area, you are going to know about it. But if you engage in hurtful or harsh or destructive or deceitful speech, there doesn't seem to be any consequences for that. Does there? Not in churches. You speak unkindly to someone, you snap at them, you gossip, you be malicious, you stir up crap, you lie about people, you say all sorts of things, and what happens? Generally nothing. And yet that's the stuff that kills. It kills people and it kills churches. And this is why James is so strong in his little letter about watching our mouths and warning us about the dangers of the tongue. He says the tongue is like, it's like a bit in a horse's mouth. It's a thing that directs our life. It's a little spark that can set a whole forest on fire. You've got to watch your mouth. And I think we underestimate the power of speech and the damage that it can actually do. But what I found is that the ends justifies the means when it comes to this, and we have all sorts of ways of rationalising it. For example, we don't gossip, do we? We share prayer points. Yeah? We share prayer points. And there is an appropriate time to ask people to pray for things, but you get permission off people if you can share things. You don't just sidle up to someone and go, hey, so-and-so's been telling me about what they've been going through, but we'll pray about it. I'm telling you, so we'll pray. No, that's gossip. That's gossip, and it needs to be called for what it is. If you want to pray for someone, say, can I pray for you? And do you mind if I get a couple of other people to pray for you? And who are you safe with me telling this thing about? Other than that, it's gossip. It's not your story to share, right? So even if you are going to be praying about people, or we excuse upsetting people by saying, this little chestnut, I'm just telling the truth. Yeah, I'm just telling the truth. I'm just a truth teller. Or my wife likes to call herself a truth bringer, right? She's the bringer of truth. In my last church, I had a situation where a guy came up to me and he said, I feel so much better now. I said, why? He goes, because I finally told those people what I think about them. And I said, what do you mean? And I could look and they were crying. And he's like, well, I told them the truth. They really annoy me. and they do this, and this wrong. And I said, yeah, speaking the truth in love. Did you get to the end bit? Like in love, right? That bit, that's really important, that bit on there, the in love bit, okay? There's no rule, two things, right? There's no rule that says speaking the truth means we have to say everything that is true. We don't. We just don't. You just don't have to walk up to people and go, I really hate your hair. It looks awful. But you don't need to say that. It might be true, but you don't need to say that. Okay? Speaking the truth in love just means when we do speak, we speak what is true, candor, right? We are honest about things. But there's a way of doing that, isn't there? There's a way of doing that that doesn't destroy people. And that's what Paul's on about when he says speaking the truth in love. We do it in a way to try and help that person and to build them up. I mean, what is your intent in telling the truth? What's your motivation for speaking the truth? That's an important factor. Is it just to get that something off your chest? Is it just to say something because it's true? Or is it to lovingly, kindly help someone? You have to examine your motives in that. Now, just again, as a sidebar, sometimes even truth delivered in love can hurt, can't it? You know, the Bible says wounds from a friend can be trusted. So sometimes people who love us will tell us things and they're really hard to hear and they will upset us. Their intent is not to harm us, it's to heal us, okay? But it'll hurt. But you get the distinction. We only speak the truth in love when we want to actually be a part of that person's healing and restoration, not just because we want to get something off their chest. Now, here's the thing. I've seen far more damage done to people and churches through destructive speech than I ever have through sexual immorality. Now, I'm not minimizing the latter. I just think we don't pay enough attention to the former. I just don't think we take that seriously enough and deal with that the way it is meant to be dealt with. And Paul is pretty emphatic about us dealing with both. Okay, so in verse 5 he says, put to death therefore whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires and greed, which is idolatry, because the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived. And then he says in verse 8, but now you must also rid yourselves of all such things as these. So you've dealt with all of that stuff, all the sexual immorality stuff, tick, wonderful, keep at it. But now you've got to go a step further. You've got to deal with this stuff as well. Get rid of anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. These are all overlapping words for angry, hurtful, meaningless kind of speech. It's not just swearing. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off the old self with its practices and put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge and the image of its creator. Right, as I said, I was 19 before I realised there was a thing called fashion. Before I met Heather, I was what you might call sartorially challenged, right? Do you know what that means? I didn't know how to dress, okay? And I'm so glad that I grew up in an era where we didn't have cameras on phones, because I would never live it down. I didn't think there was anything wrong with brown shoes, purple flares and a yellow shirt, right? I thought it looked really good. And then I had my high tops on with my blue happy pants with another type of blue shirt, which I'm told did not go with the other blue that I was wearing. You know, I did this sort of thing. Now, part of the reason for that is, you're going to feel bad for laughing at me now, I'm colourblind. You feel shocking. You're mocking someone with a disability, so well done. Okay, well done you. So I'm colourblind, so I just thought I looked good, right? Okay. I also did not know that there were kind of rules around dressing, that not everything looks good on everybody. There are certain styles that are more suited to you and certain seasons. So, for example, I now know that I am an autumn classic. I know I'm a classic, right? I just know. But I'm an autumn classic. So I'd love to be able to get around in sports gear and T-shirts and stuff, but I just look silly. Right? T-shirts don't suit me. I need a collar, I need tailored clothes, and only certain colours really suit me. And I've learned another really important lesson too, that as I get older, there are certain things that don't suit me as well. Even though it might be autumn classic clothing and clothes I really like, I think, oh, I love that. It's not appropriate for a man of my vintage to be wearing those clothes. It comes across a little sad. Yes. Okay? Comes across just a little sad. So there's a bunch of things that just don't look good on me. And part of the reason is not because fashion has necessarily changed that much. It's just cyclical. It just goes around. I've noticed that are they flares or bootcut jeans are back in now? I don't know. And then they call them, dad jeans and boyfriend jeans. It's, the acid wash is back. Well, it's just all cyclical. So it's not because fashion changes per se. It's because I've changed, right? And this is Paul's point to the Colossians. You used to do this sort of stuff. Your attitude towards sex was a free for all. And your attitude towards speech was the same. It didn't really matter how you spoke and how you conducted yourselves with each other or with other people. And that stuff was, it's not okay, but it was a fit for you then because of who you were. You were just like everybody else. You were living in the same, you were just like everybody else, and that stuff fit you. But you've now undergone a transformation. You are not the same anymore. You're not the people you used to be. You died and your life is now hidden with Christ. You're a new creation being renewed in the image of its creator, right? You're this new person. And so that stuff that you used to get around in, it doesn't fit you anymore. It doesn't suit you. It's not befitting you anymore. Are you with me? So all this sleeping around stuff, that doesn't look good on you. And stuff that's coming out of your mouth, the way you speak to people, the stuff that you say, that doesn't suit you either. It's incongruous with who you are. You with me? This is Paul's point. So you've got to take that old stuff off. You've got to pack it all up and you've got to donate it to the restore because you don't need it anymore, right? And you've got to deck yourself out in a whole lot of new stuff. This is the stuff you've got to start to put on now. So he goes on to say in verse 7 the practical implications of this. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If anyone has a grievance against someone, forgive them as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. I love how he says, clothe yourselves. Clothe yourself, wrap yourself up in this stuff, drape yourself with this stuff so it's dripping off you, right? That's the sort of imagery he's giving us. You know what looks good on you? You know what looks good on us? What all the best people are wearing these days? Compassion. Compassion looks good on everybody. You don't have to be an autumn classic to wear compassion. Everyone can wear compassion, right? These are the things that fit everyone, especially those of us who are new creations and are being renewed in the image of the Creator, right? This is the stuff that looks good on us. Compassion. You know what compassion means? It means to try and put yourself in someone else's position to understand their point of view and what they're going through. It literally means to co-suffer with someone. And we can't always walk in someone else's shoes, right? We can't. But we can put ourselves in a position where we can try and understand what's going on for that person so the words that come out of our mouth are helpful and not hurtful. Yeah? Now, let me just tell you something, a good example of this. As someone who has cancer, can I give you a free lesson today? Here's things not to say to people with cancer. I had a friend who had cancer and they died. Or, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I watched my own dad die from cancer and it was really, really horrible. I kid you not. I've had people crying, telling me their sad cancer stories while they came to see how I was going. Well, I was good until you turned up. I was fine. Now I feel like crap. Thank you for sharing that with me. Do not do that. The way to talk to someone with cancer is just go, how you going? Yeah, okay. I'm praying for you. Thank you. End of story. That's it. You can't go wrong. But that's compassion because what it does is it tries to, rather than what you need in that situation, it's what that person needs in that situation. And you can extrapolate that out over every scenario. Compassion just means you are trying to put yourself in that person's situation so you can best determine what it is they need. What would I need in that situation? Sometimes there are no words. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just put your hand on someone's shoulder and go, I'm praying for you. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. So compassion. Compassion looks good on all of us. You know what else looks good on us? Kindness. Kindness. The most simple, inexpensive thing to give, kindness, which simply means to be generous and considerate. Generous and considerate. And when I say generous, it's generous with your attitude, generous with your time, generous with your posture towards people. Just be kind. Kindness is such a powerful thing. It honestly is. Kindness is life-changing stuff. Because do you know that some people aren't used to experiencing kindness? You realise this? There are some people, when they experience kindness, it blows them away. Heather was telling me a story about a guy when she first went back out there to work at the Restore this last time. And a guy who's been living on the street, he's got some mental health issues, has all sorts of trouble. When they approached him to help him in that, he nearly freaks out because, and he quite admits it, doesn't he? I can't handle it when people are kind to me. I don't know how to handle it when people are kind to me. But they're kind to him, and they keep continuing to be kind with him. It reminds me sometimes of those videos you see where a dog has been mistreated and someone wants to care for that dog, but the dog is just like freaking out because a human hand is coming towards them. And the only time they've seen a human hand is it was followed up by a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. But this is a caring hand. But it takes them a while, and eventually that kindness, you start to see the life come back into the dog. You know, but people are like that too. People, they can grow up in some horrible situations, and sometimes they just need a little bit of kindness. I'm going to read you something. I don't think I'm breaking any laws here or any confidentialities, but someone sent me a text about a thing they'd seen happen at the Restore recently. Anyway, this person was there, and they said they were browsing, and a lady came in the store, and she'd just soiled herself. She'd obviously had difficult social circumstances and shared her medical issues that caused her to be incontinent. So she came to the store to get a change of clothes, but in the process of changing those clothes, she had a few more accidents. She knew the staff there and the manager, who was not only supportive and kind, but spoke to her and helped her in such a way that gave her so much dignity when she was in a situation that seemed so far from it. I just wanted to let you know that whoever manages the store really was just such an image of Jesus today, and I was so humbled by it. Simple kindness that treated someone with the dignity they needed to be treated with. That's it, kindness. Doesn't cost a lot, very easy to give away. Never underestimate the power of kindness. Imagine the culture here if we just agreed to be kind to one another and to kind to everyone that walked through our doors. Kind to everyone we met. It'd be amazing. What about decking yourself out in humility? Humility is a pretty cool thing to wear these days. C.S. Lewis said, humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And often that's a problem when we're dealing with people, is that we're not necessarily thinking about them, are we? We're thinking about ourselves. I'm guilty of that multiple times. But it's about thinking about them and what they need and what's going on, instead of being preoccupied with ourselves or how we feel or how we're affected. What if we concerned ourselves with more about how other people feel and how they're being affected? It also means being open to the idea that we don't know everything. That's another manifestation of humility. We don't know everything. We're not aware of everything. So we come into situations in our conversations with people and we approach people from a posture of being open to learn and to listen rather than just talk. That's what humility does. Anyway, to top it all off with some gentleness and patience, I haven't got time to go through that now. And then he says, and then tie it all together with love. Oh, and forgive people as well. Like, just deck yourself out in this stuff. And if you want to know about love, that's a really powerful one. I did a cracker of a sermon actually here on love a while ago, even if I do say so myself. It's called Love Full Stop. And if you want to understand what love is about, like it's the defining sermon on love in the whole world. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Actually, the word humility comes from the Latin word humus, which means ground. It means to be grounded. I'm just being grounded. I'm awesome sometimes. Okay. All right? I'm just awesome sometimes. That's the truth. All right. But here's what I want us to get this morning, right? When the heckler stops, okay? You're not a truth teller. All right. Truth bringer. We might be thinking, yeah, you know what, Adrian, sometimes that's just easier said than done. I mean, have you met some people? They're hard to deal with. And what if I'm not feeling it, right? What if I'm I just don't have the... Have you ever had those times where you're with people, you even come to church, but that's kind of it's taken all your energy to get here, right? and then you feel like you've got nothing left to give. Anyone been in those situations? Because that's life. Sometimes that's it. We're in situations where we feel like, I've got nothing. I've got absolutely nothing. Here's what I want us to understand about this. Paul is not saying that we need to work this stuff up, that we need to manifest this stuff somehow through our own efforts. So we need to try hard at doing this. The stuff that Barry was talking about last week. He's not saying, try harder at this, try harder at this. Paul is telling us simply to live out what has already been put in us. Just live out what has already been put in us. A lot of this corresponds to the fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. Against these things, that is in us. By virtue of the fact that we are in Jesus and Jesus is in us, all that stuff is already in us. We don't have to conjure it up. It's already there. We just need to live it out. But in order to do that, we do have to do something. We have to make a choice. We have to make a choice not to go with our old natural impulses, the stuff, the way we used to live and the way we used to speak and we used to do things, because there's been a groove in our brain and in our life where that stuff comes really easily and automatically. We have to choose to not put that stuff back on and choose to just call up the stuff, the new stuff that is in us. So we have a choice in those moments. And sometimes it might be that we just need to pause, go, God, I need your love in this situation. I need your compassion. I need that right now because I want to love on this person. I want to help them. I don't want to hurt them. We have a choice to do that. So being the sort of people that Jesus created us to be, it's not complicated and it's not hard. It starts very simply with how we speak to and treat other people, especially our brothers and sisters in Christ. To be honest, this could not be a lower bar. It really could not be a lower bar. When we're thinking about what does it mean to be a Christian, well, start by just being kind and compassionate and loving towards one another. Just start there. That's a really low bar. And yet this is an area where we score so many own goals. People are put off by Christians and Christianity because of the rubbish they see going on in churches. And the irony is, Jesus said, by this will all men know that you're my disciples if what? You love one another. That was it. Again, you want people to know that I'm true and I'm real and that you are following me and what I stand for is all great. All they need to do is see you guys loving one another. That's going to speak volumes, particularly in a world that's becoming increasingly fragmented and polarized. That we are loving and kind and compassionate and gentle and humble with one another. So let's just contract with one another that we will be these people, that we will do this, that we will hold ourselves and one another accountable for doing this. And that's the sort of culture we're going to end up with. I love it. I've seen examples of this already in this place where things have happened and I've heard people say, we don't do that here. Yes. That's it. We don't do that here. That's how it works. When a whole culture refuses to go down the rabbit hole of treating people badly and chooses to embrace the way of kindness and love and gentleness, things will change. If we could just do this stuff, we would be so different and so attractive to people that we wouldn't be able to stop people wanting to be a part of what we're on about. Honestly, this is all it takes. And it is all so easy for us to do. It's a choice we have to call up that which is already in us. People do not care about the shows we put on a Sunday. They don't. They care about the character of our community. That's what they care about. The show is icing on the cake. Good job today, guys, too. Fantastic job from the, awesome. Love it. It's a blessing to have all of that, but it ain't going to win people over. What's going to win people over is a community of people who know how to love one another and love others. That's it. Amen.